Everybody, let's thank Bresee. Not because he blocked a kick at the end of the game to win. I mean, that's part of it, but not really. Don't thank him for that. Thank him for blocking that kick so we did not have to watch an overtime of the worst game ever. Because this game between the Saints and the Giants is by far one of the worst sporting events I've ever seen in my life. So thank you, Bresee, for saving us, the fans, from more painful minutes and time from watching this game. This game was so bad, I'm actually excited that tomorrow is Monday and I have finals this week. And the price to get into MetLife Stadium to watch the Giants and Saints play was $2. Yes, $2 to watch the Saints and Giants play football. You for sure would have felt like going to that game was not worth $2. And if you are here watching this video after watching that disastrous game and you're here for a recap, I appreciate you. And if you are here, please subscribe to this channel. We're on the road to 10K. 71% of you who watch my videos are not subscribed, so just double check. We're getting close to 10K. I want to do YouTube, as my thing. So while you're here, you might as well subscribe. Now, I don't really even know where to start when it comes to this game. The Saints, in reality, should have lost this game. The Giants had 10 points called back due to penalties. Had Daniel Jones still been their starting quarterback, chances are they probably would have beaten the Saints today. The offense for the Saints was not good. Neither was the special teams. Wasn't a great day for the defense either. But there were some okay moments. Darren Rizzi had some odd moments chewing out his punter and some weird decisions like a fake punt. Derek Carr left the game early with an injury, and who knows if he plays again this season or possibly again for the Saints. So let's just get into talking about the worst game ever. Regarding quarterback Derek Carr, let's start here. The latest injury news regarding the Saints starting quarterback is that he is feared to have suffered a fracture in his left non-throwing hand. Sources tell Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport, which would be another name added to the injury list for the Saints on top of Olave, Shaheed. They missed Eric McCoy for a long time. So Derek Carr is yet another injury added to that list of players. Also, Nick Underhill said that there is concern that Derek Carr also suffered a broken left hand. Now, hopefully Derek Carr is okay. He looked to be in a lot of pain after he landed awkwardly. I'm not the biggest fan of him. I think a lot of you guys know that, but hopefully he recovers well and he's going to be okay. We don't want to root for injuries here. And as to whether or not he does come back and play for the Saints again this season, well, Alvin Kamara's been playing with a broken hand, so it is possible Derek Carr could go. But playing quarterback and running back are kind of a little bit different in terms of how they utilize their hands. Pete Warner and Willie Gay both had hand surgery this season. Willie Gay missed the game and Pete Warner didn't, but he played with a club on his hand. Derek Carr cannot play with a club on his hand. He's the quarterback, so it's a little bit different for him. If it was a fracture, I don't know. But I think things are leaning towards Derek Carr missing a good amount of games. Maybe the rest of the season, maybe 3. Who knows? Now, as to whether or not Derek Carr plays again for the New Orleans Saints, I really don't know. There's been a lot of speculation and rumors that he could possibly be cut this offseason from the Saints, or he could be back for the Saints depending on who the head coach is. But I think something the Saints are going to have to consider is his injury guarantee in 2025. Derek Carr has a $30 million injury guarantee in 2025, and this guy who works at OTC over the cap says he'd be cautious if I were the Saints. And if you don't know what this means, that means if Derek Carr gets hurt in 2025 and cannot pass a physical, the Saints will owe him $30 million regardless. So this is, I think, something to consider when it comes to whether or not Derek Carr should be the starting quarterback and should be on the Saints roster in 2025. You also have to look at his contract. Is he worth paying $40 million? There's a lot of questions here that need to be answered probably within a month, pretty soon after the regular season ends. Now, looking at the play Derek Carr got hurt on, one, a read option with Derek Carr is wild. Derek Carr said earlier this week that they had some guys who could do what Taysom Hill did. Maybe he was talking about himself. I don't know what he's doing here. Just slide, protect yourself. Don't risk injury. This is why guys, don't do this. He tries to jump over for the first down. I appreciate the effort. I get he's trying to help his team pull off a victory, but you also got to protect yourself. And he lands awkwardly on his left wrist. It's a weird angle right here. Let's see if we can get a better angle right here. Jumps, he's diving, and awkwardly lands on his left wrist / hand and his arm. So this is the play he got hurt on. I really don't know why he did that instead of just sliding to keep the clock running and stuff. Now, prior to the injury, Derek Carr wasn't having the best game ever either. He did have a nice touchdown pass to a wide open Juwan Johnson after the Giants defense was a little bit confused as to what the Saints were doing. He did have some nice throws to Foster Moreau as well, had a nice pass to Juwan Johnson early on in the game on the Saints' first scoring drive, which was a 98-yard touchdown drive, which was the longest for the Saints since 2016 versus the Raiders, and Drew Brees threw that 98-yard touchdown to Brandon Cooks versus the Raiders, and Derek Carr is on that team. So Derek Carr did have some nice moments in this game, but he also did have some bad moments as well. Now, the one that obviously stands out is the interception he threw to the Giants. Coming into this game, the Giants had only one interception coming into this game as a team through, 12 games, and Derek Carr threw one right here. Obviously, not all of his fault. There's a pressure let up. He was under some pressure. Could have just dumped it off here to not risk the interception. Didn't obviously have the best footwork on this throw either. Don't want to be a couch quarterback and criticize him and critique him from, a chair. I'm just saying, though, he could have maybe just thrown it here instead. And he throws it downfield deep, underthrown, and it gets intercepted as he was looking for Kevin Austin. That was probably one of the bigger plays that stood out in a bad way for Derek Carr on the day. And I'm not going to sit here and act like the situation for Derek Carr was great either. Two things can be true. Derek Carr didn't play a great game, and the situation Derek Carr was in also wasn't great. The Saints were still down wide receivers Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed and Bub Means. Now, the offensive line didn't have a great day either, despite them having all of their starting 5 offensive linemen back. Eric McCoy was back, Lucas Patrick was back, and really the offensive line did not have a great day. Not only in pass protection, but even in the running game, the Saints were not able to run the ball effectively today. They only had 92 yards on 33 carries. Not a single one went over 20 yards. Really not the best day overall for the Saints running game. And we saw what happens when Clint Kubiak doesn't have a running game. He starts to struggle. Same with Derek Carr. He starts to struggle once the running game isn't there. And once again, we saw Clint Kubiak struggle without Taysom Hill. He has some tendencies to struggle without Taysom Hill and the offense as a whole in general. And this is just in the first half. I don't know what the second half numbers are, but the Saints had 8 plays lose yardage in the first half, and only one of them was a sack. So they had 6 to 7 runs that went negative yards. So the Saints were not productive in the running game at all. There was a lot of negative plays. The Giants have the 29th ranked run defense. Dexter Lawrence wasn't playing, and the Saints still struggled. I have no idea why. There really wasn't a whole lot of positives from the offense in general, but I think a bright spot on the offense today was running back Kendre Miller, who was back from injured reserve after wrongfully being placed there by Dennis Allen a few weeks ago. He said he could have played in that Panthers game, the first game he missed, but Dennis Allen mishandled his injury and put him on injured reserve. This was his first game back, and I think he showed some really nice plays. Every time I thought Kendre Miller was down, he'd gain an extra 3 yards. He had some really nice jump cuts, and he made some really nice plays. He had that touchdown run, obviously, in the first half, and had a really nice kickoff return. Darren Bresee said he challenged him all week. He gave him a clean slate from Dennis Allen, and I don't think Kendre Miller disappointed. Now, he did only have 10 carries for 32 yards for 1 touchdown. Didn't even have a run over 10 yards. But when you actually look at these runs, he was making stuff happen when there really was nothing for him to do. When he was getting hit in the backfield, he would still pick up 7 yards and a first down. So while he did only have a long run of 9, you have to actually watch these plays to really see how good he was playing. And honestly, we should have seen him more involved, and I blame Clint Kubiak for that. He gave Jamal Williams a lot more touches, a lot more playing time than Kendre Miller, which to me makes 0 sense. Kendre Miller has a lot of juice. He has a lot of electrifying attributes that he adds to his offense. Meanwhile, Jamal Williams just seems to not have any of those positive traits for the Saints. I also didn't think Clint Kubiak had the best day in general either. When you take away the running game, what can he do? And he was not able to do anything without the running game. We saw earlier this season that he struggles without Taysom Hill. We saw him struggle last week when the Taysom Hill plays weren't working and he got hurt. And we saw this week that he struggled without Taysom Hill. And let me remind you, Clint Kubiak's job isn't safe. His job is on the line. And for this to be the performance that his offense puts up when they need to be at their best and trying to save jobs, not impressive. I also want to talk about, like, why was he throwing the football at the end of the game after Derek Carr was hurt? All they needed to do was run out the clock and get a first down to win, and he was still throwing it. They took a sack. Or how about running a read option with Derek Carr, or continuing to run these pitch plays that don't work? Clint Kubiak obviously doesn't have the best supporting cast of players, but he also isn't helping himself with some of these play calls. So offensively, outside of Kendre Miller, I guess you could say maybe Alvin Kamara. I don't know about anyone on the offensive line. Kendre Miller and I guess Alvin Kamara for a few plays were the only positives from the offensive side of the ball. The tight ends did make some nice plays. Foster Moreau had a nice catch. Juwan Johnson made some nice plays. Dallin Holker got his first catch. So I guess the tight ends did have some nice plays as well. I guess they also had a positive impact as well. Now flipping over to the other side, defensively, I don't think there's a whole lot to say either. They played a very bad Giants offense led by a very bad head coach who really didn't have a plan as to what they were doing or what they were trying to do. And it just kind of felt like the Giants were trying to actively tank and lose this game. And even with that, the Saints still barely won. And this is a game that they should have lost. Now, throughout most of the game, I thought the Saints front seven, the linemen and the linebackers did a good job stopping the run, which has been their biggest issue this season, has been their kryptonite. They held the Giants running backs to 18 carries for 53 yards and 1 touchdown with a long of 7 yards. So they shut down the running backs for the Giants. And Tyrone Tracy isn't a slouch. He's a guy who's been very productive for the Giants. So the Saints front did a good job stopping the running backs. And on top of that, they also did, I think, a decent job getting pressure on Drew Lock throughout a good portion of the game. Chase Young, according to Next Gen Stats, had 10 pressures, tying his career high on 36 pass rushes against the Giants, and 6 of them coming in under 2.5 seconds. So the Saints pass rush was doing a good job of getting to Drew Lock and forcing him to throw checkdowns or take sacks or be under pressure. Now, this is a bad offensive line, a bad quarterback, and a bad system, so I don't really know how much that says about the Saints defensive line, but they did have a nice game. Now, the Saints defense did struggle to stop Drew Lock on scrambling plays. Drew Lock had some pretty long runs, had a 25-yard run on 4th down, picked up a first down on 3rd and 15 on their opening drive, also ran a few other times. Drew Lock was able to run the ball on the Saints, and once again, the Saints are showing they can't stop quarterbacks who can run, and Drew Lock is not a running quarterback. So the Saints continue to still have their struggles in the running game, just in a different way. And now, as for the secondary, I think they had an okay to solid game. I don't think that was bad, and I don't think it was great. I think it was just okay. I thought Kool-Aid McKinstry had a really nice rep against Malik Neighbors, and Alontae Taylor had a really nice pass breakup on Malik Neighbors as well towards the end of the game. This was a nice play from Kool-Aid McKinstry covering Malik Neighbors on this hook route. Malik Neighbors is one of the better receivers in the NFL, and he's a rookie on a bad team in a bad system. So this was a nice play from Kool-Aid McKinstry. Nice to see him get a pass breakup. But again, Kool-Aid and Alontae both did give up some plays that they should not be giving up. Like, for example, Malik Neighbors breaking tackles at the end on a quick little hitch route on Alontae Taylor. Or how about Kool-Aid McKinstry getting beat by Darius Slayton a few times? It was just a throw that was bad. So the secondary and the corners and the safeties had an okay game. They had some good moments and had some pretty bad moments as well. But the defensive performance today really was not that encouraging. And if I'm being honest, like I said earlier, the Saints are lucky Daniel Jones wasn't still on the Giants, because the Giants probably would have won. Granted, some of us would have preferred that the Saints lost this game for the better draft pick, because it really doesn't seem like the future or the playoffs are realistic for this team. But obviously, Daniel Jones was not playing. And as for standout players on defense, I really didn't have any one particular player who stood out outside of Brian Bresee, who had a sack on the day. He's up to 7.5 sacks this season. He had 2 pass deflections and obviously the blocked field goal for the win. I've been one of Brian Bresee's bigger fans. I've been saying since the offseason, I think he's going to have a big year. He's at 7.5 sacks. And if he continues to dominate and be productive for the Saints, that's great for the future. That means they hit on a draft pick. They hit on a guy who they can help build their team around. So Brian Bresee had himself another good game. Had a good game last week. He's starting to stack up some dominant performances. Coincidentally, this is happening right after they changed their defensive line coach. I'm happy that Brian Bresee is doing some stuff. We got to see him continue to dominate moving forward. But I think if you're looking at the future and young guys who the Saints can build around, he's starting to become one of those guys. And with Bryan Bresee having 7.5 sacks on the season, that moves him into the top 5 in Saints history for sacks by a defensive tackle in a single season, surpassing Leroy Glover. Someone corrected me in the last video. I hope I said it right this time. And Nick Fairley in 2016. So Bryan Bresee is having a really good season, and he's really having a dominant December so far. He had a really good game last week and had a really good game this week. As for the special teams, boy, was it ugly. This is not a good look for Darren Rizzi, who is obviously trying to get a head coaching job for the Saints or just around the NFL in general. His unit did not play good today, and his unit only plays a certain amount of snaps, and they did not perform well today. Blake Grupe, the kicker, missed 2 kicks. He started off the season hot, like 20 of 21, but he's missed 3 of his last 4 kicks. They allowed a punt return touchdown, which was called back, in my opinion, to a soft holding penalty. And as we see here, Darren Rizzi was very upset with his punter Matthew Hayball for how he punted the ball, where he punted the ball, and how he basically didn't trail behind the returner to kind of force him out of bounds. Rizzi was very heated. Alvin Kamara kind of had to separate them a little bit, cool Rizzi off. He was very upset about the whole situation regarding the punt return. Luckily, it was called back for those of you who want the Saints to win. And Darren Rizzi postgame said that Matthew Hayball wasn't executing the game plan the way it needed to be, and said the last 2 punts of the game were the way that they were trying to punt it all day. And not only was that an issue, but obviously the opening kickoff, Jamal Williams muffs the kickoff return, and I have no idea why he's on the kickoff return unit as a returner. And obviously Darren Rizzi running a fake punt with Jamal Williams didn't work. If you're going to run a fake punt on 4th and 2, might as well just go for it and leave your skill positions and, your offense out there instead of trying to run another fake punt. It didn't work last week. You got lucky with the flag, and it didn't work this time. So hopefully he learns from this and makes adjustments moving forward to just leave his offense on the field. The only good special teams plays today that happened was the Kendre Miller kickoff return and the Bryan Bresee blocked field goal. And this isn't just, something I'm saying. Darren Rizzi even said that it was a bad day for the special teams in general. He said it was ironic that the teams won off a special teams play after one of the worst special teams performances by the team in recent memory. So he knows this is an issue and it needs to be fixed ASAP. It wasn't pretty, but the Saints found a way to win over the Giants today, improving to 5-8, which everyone has their own opinion as to whether that's good or not. The Saints are now still in playoff contention, but they'll have to win out and basically win the division to make the playoffs. There's no wild card basically for them. They need to win the division. They'll need the Falcons to lose a few more games and Tampa Bay to lose a few more games. And the Saints need to win out. I don't see that happening. I don't see them beating the Commanders, especially if Derek Carr's out. Don't see them beating the Packers. I don't see them beating Tampa Bay either. So I don't see the playoffs being an outcome for this season for this team in particular. And for those of you who want to know the Saints' current draft pick, they have the 11th overall pick. Obviously, we still have some teams left to play for the rest of Week 14, but the Saints are sitting at 11. Chicago is probably going to go down. And man, is this a sucky time for the Saints to be bad, because last season 5 wins would have gotten them like the 6th overall pick. 5 wins this year is getting them pick 12. Hopefully you found this video and my content entertaining, and more entertaining than the Saints and Giants game today. I should hopefully be back and posting more content and videos this week. I still got finals to finish up, but I should be doing a little bit more this week. So make sure you are subscribed to my channel, Cash Sports, for more daily NFL content, Saints content, up-to-date news. Have a good one. Peace.